Hello viewers, for today's spring 2024 air conditioner testing, we have the Arctic King air conditioner. This is the Arctic Queen window type air conditioner WWK05CM81N. It's a 5000 BTU model, and it hopefully still has 9.52 Oz of R410A. I don't necessarily think I'm going to use this one this year, because there's really no reason to. I have many far superior pieces of equipment to use. But I want to test it because I'm just curious to see if it still works or not. This was made in November of 2017. I picked it up in 2018. I think it was towards the end of summer, like the real tail end of the summer, maybe even into early fall. And I remember picking it up, and I wanted to take it, and I did actually take it to work, because at my old job the building was very old and the air condition, it was not right, and there was a lot of moisture in this building. And it wasn't necessarily hot, but it was incessantly humid. It was so bad that some of the computer rooms, like the computer mouse pads, would actually get like fluffy white mold growing on them because it was so wet and just gross in the rooms. So I picked this up from the curb and I said, perfect, I'll bring it to work. I actually don't even think I brought it home for a cleaning. I think I just took it straight to work because it wasn't that bad. And I remember using it a small handful of times. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times, because it was towards the end of the summer. But it worked great. My office was pretty big. It had, I want to say it had at least 20-25 feet by 10 to 15 feet. It really was a good sized room, and it had three windows. Not, well, actually it did have Microsoft Windows as well, but I'm talking about like physical, like building windows. And they opened real big. You could put a full-size box fan in there, which I did quite often. But then when it was really nasty out, I would put this in. And even for a room that size, this made the room super comfortable. It was the most comfortable office on the 3rd floor. It took the moisture right out, and it would keep it around, like, it could take it down to like 75 degrees, which was good enough for me. It was great. Unfortunately, I only got to use it a handful of times because I would get laid off in the spring, and that was it for that job, which is a shame. I really liked that job. Anyway, so I took it home when I got laid off, and then just the humidity thing, I feel like it was sometime around like the mid 2010s that the summers just started to become incessantly humid and tropical around here. When I was younger, I remember that there would be some humid nights, but a lot of nights were comfortable. But in the last 5 to 10 years, it seems like every night is just soaking wet. And so in the summer of 2019, I was laid off, and summer come around and it starts to get humid again. And I remember I was going to my grandparents' house a lot because I wasn't working, so I wasn't going nowhere, so they felt comfortable having me come over to their house. And I remember going in the garage, and it was like disgusting, and there was probably mold somewhere, and it was super musty. I says, why don't I bring over this air conditioner, put the air conditioner in the window, and just let it run. You don't have to worry about emptying it because it'll drip outside and whatever. So I cleaned it up, and it actually was kind of dirty. And then I brought it to my grandparents' house, and for whatever reason, to this day I still don't know, my grandfather refused to put it in the window in the garage. And the garage just remained nasty and gross to this day. I don't get it, but that's the way it is. But he did put the air conditioner in the downstairs area where he usually watches television and works on the computer. And that's another big room. That's probably at least 25 by 25 cube. And it had kind of the same effect that it did at work. It wouldn't freeze the room, but it would take the temperature down a couple of degrees, and it would take the moisture out, which really improves the comfort of the room. And so he used it there in 2019, 2020, and I actually think he used it there in 2021 too. And then in 2022, when I bought my house, I didn't have a lot of air conditioners, and the ones I had were not in good working order, and they needed to be cleaned and everything. So when I first moved in, I took it back because he has an air conditioner for that room. I'm not sure why he was using this one, but he was using this one, and I took it back, and I used it here for a month or so, and had the same effect here. I would close the door to the living room, and I would run this and another 5,000, and it would make the house completely comfortable. So for something I got for free, this has served the whole family very well. So let's see if it still works. It's got one of these dorky plugs in here, but at least this one is fairly mechanical. You know, some of them are like huge with, oh, I guess this does have a light on there too, but this, it's not too bad, I guess. You can always just cut it off and put a regular plug in there. Maybe try to put some batteries here also. So right now we have 118.5 volts over the amps. This is rated for 4 amps at 115 volts. I highly doubt that we'll have it get up to 4 amps. I suspect it'll sit somewhere around 2.5. Yeah, the filter needs to be cleaned. This is really cut some hours on it, which is why I want to test it, because by today's standards, this is old. This has lasted a long time, which is pathetic, but that's the way it is. So we are still in range, but towards the end. The compressor is a Qingan compressor. Qingan. And the fan motor is a Welling. 0.48 amps, 35 watts. Motor for air conditioner. Welling, woohoo! Motor, Manufacturing Company Limited. It's still pretty clean right now. Still see through the coil. Well, I can. The camera's not going to focus, but it does need. It could use a cleaning, but it's got the drain hole, so the coil shouldn't be stuck with all sorts of dirt and stuff because it's not getting wet. All right, we'll start off with the low fan. And I always put this in here because it seems to recirculate pretty bad. So I stick this in here like this, and it solves that problem. And my grandfather also would use it like this because he's bothered by some of the same kind of stuff that I am, including the recirculation. Alright, so the fan is 0.46 amps, 54 the watts with a power factor of 0.99. And, you know, for what it's worth, it's actually moving a decent amount of air. Of course, the register is very small, so it's going to feel like it's forcing a lot of air just because the opening is small, but it's not bad. The high fan, I don't really feel much of a difference. It's just kind of more noise. That's 0.46 amps, 56 the watts, power factor 0.99. So let's go into the cool zone. Not the amount of cool zone, the controlling cool zone. And we'll start up the compressor. That's one of the nicest sounding rotary compressor startups from a long winter I've heard, like, ever. You know, the compressor sounds really nice on this thing for what it is, and it's fairly quiet. It's a shame the fan is so stinking loud. Let's get the meter out. Get a reading on the temperature. Or we'll just throw the equipment on the floor. This thing is so stinking loud. I remember trying to sleep with this in the bedroom the first couple weeks I was living here. It was like, oh, where's the earplugs? Alright, so we have, according to the thermometer in here, we have 71 degrees. Let's let this stabilize and see what this says. See if it breaks. 70.4. Pretty much the same thing. So let me hook this up in here. I can tell you it's already getting pretty cold. Come on, dork. $45, $44. It's pulling 3 amps. Yeah, it feels every bit that cold. Sounds just totally content, even after sitting for months without being used. Perfect. Get some heat out the back now. Down at 38 degrees. Power is 2.99 amps, 340 watts with a power factor of 0.98. You know, for whatever it's worth, I do think that some of these, if I just knock over your stool, I do think that some of these little 5,000 BTU models, some of them, not all, some of them are okay. This is one of them. If it wasn't for the stinking noise, I really wouldn't mind using this. 35 degrees. Now, of course, it's very low heat load in here. It's only 71, but still 35. That's a really good delta. I just can't believe how good the compressor sounds. I thought it would at least be a little chattery on startup. It sounds totally copacetic. And like I said, this does have a good number of hours on it because my grandfather used it for several years. I used it for quite a bit last year, or 2 years ago now. Plus the previous owner had used it quite a bit. So this thing has been around the block. And it still seems perfectly fine. 34.6, 34.2. It's still getting cooler. Let's try the high speed. Went up about a degree, but not much. I really don't think there's a big difference in airflow between low and high. I wonder if we could replace this impeller with a different one. Because this has one of those big, those impellers that looks like a vacuum impeller. I wonder if we could swap it with a conventional squirrel cage blower to tone the noise down a bit. So this is one of those cases where the condenser fan is actually not making most of the noise. A lot of the noise is in fact coming from the evaporator fan. This is really cold. This is working properly. This is a pleasant surprise. Looks like around 34 degrees is going to be our stabilization point. That's over 40 degrees delta. That's pretty good. Or around 40 degrees delta. That's very good. I'd say it's definitely got all the gas in there still. Well, it's still working. After all the use it's had, it still seems to be in great shape. That's kind of unusual.